right here. He was rescued off of Craigslist. He was being sold for a very little amount of money, unfortunately, at 4 weeks old. And Geraldine is his adopter, and she's been working with him a lot to make sure he's socialized, and so he'll be our model dog today. This is John McWilliams, and this is why we're here today, and I'll let him take over and we'll talk about some dogs.
Let's hear it for John.
Thanks again for allowing me to do this. Thank you, I appreciate this. It's a nice crowd, holy moly. Being out on a day like this is beautiful. My name is John McWilliams. This is my wife Erin. The two of us own Paws-itive Experience Pet Services over in Rockaway. We've been doing speeches to rescue groups and shelters for many years, and so I appreciate the opportunity once again. I'm going to talk about safety issues and how to deal with these strange dogs. We don't know who they are, and some of these dogs are given up because they have certain problems that people just don't want to deal with. And so now you're going to be dealing with them, on a daily basis. This is the first thing they taught me 30-something years ago, 33. Certain ways to hold a leash. There's certain ways you want to hold a leash during certain moments. Primarily, these are unknown dogs. They've been locked up in that kennel for hours at a time. Once they hit the fresh open air, they're children. They want to go romp. It's taking the kid to Disneyland. It's going to be hard to hold his hand. And what happens as soon as they get loose, you're pretty much beat. All right. So one of the first things you want to do is make sure that leash is run in a safe way. The first leash hold I was ever taught. It's probably the safest leash hold you can ever have. You put your hand through the loop. You actually wear it as a bracelet. You come up between thumb and forefinger. Leash comes up between your thumb and forefinger. Then you just hold it. This leash cannot come out of your hand unless you want it to. It just can't. It isn't going to help, buddy. It isn't going to pop out. It's not going to pop out. You don't really have to worry about it. It's kind of unsafe for certain dogs to be wrapping that leash around your hand too many times, because God forbid that dog decides to show you why he's here. Okay, you're stuck. There's nothing you can do. With this leash hold here, you can, if you need to, just open your hand and it'll come out. So God forbid you ever need to go over and separate yourself from that dog. This is an extremely safe leash hold. Okay, it's called a scouting leash back in the military, but this is primary leash. This is the way my dog daycare people walk the dogs every day. It's a very, very safe leash. You wear it as a bracelet. Come up between thumb and forefinger, and just hold it. If you do have to shorten the leash, because coming and going, okay, you really don't want some dogs at the end of a 6-foot leash, depending if there's a lot of traffic. If you do, just maintain that leash, and if you have to, you wrap it around your hand once, the other hand. So now if you do have to shorten the leash, because now if it's only wrapped around once, God forbid you do need to kind of separate yourself from the dog, it's that much easier. You don't want to be wrapping that leash around your hand if you don't have to. Depending on runaway dogs, and a nice enough dog that's just prone to running away. That's where if you're in a public place, that's where you're going to tie the dog to you. But I don't advocate that a whole bunch unless you absolutely positively know that dog. Okay, there's no way that dog's going to do any damage to you. That's when you can actually just make a slip knot of the leash and then just wear it as a bracelet. It closes around your hand, but it's very hard to separate yourself from the dog. So that has to be a dog that you know intimately. You just know for a fact nothing's going to happen. It's a pretty good leash hold maybe for a puppy. Okay, your random puppies and everything. You're taking it out, maybe you're taking it to an adoption event, you're taking it out maybe on the street or something. This might be a good leash hold for that particular puppy. Maybe not so much for some of these older dogs, because once again, you just can't separate yourself from them. Getting in and out of the kennel, sometimes there's going to be a dog. Sometimes you got to get him out, and he doesn't want his head touched, he doesn't want his neck touched, and you guys are going to be seeing that if you haven't already seen it, a bit. What you can do, and understand, you tread lightly on this. This is for when you have to get that dog out. You can actually feed the leash into its handle, and you make a collar, an emergency collar out of the leash. And then you just loop them. Okay, it's like lassoing the dog. So if you absolutely positively, for some unknown reason, have to get that dog out, it's called a loop leash. You actually feed the leash into its handle, and you kind of lasso it. Okay, right? But that's like an emergency event. Just be aware of that, please. That when you're going to get a dog out of the kennel, there's a lot of hoop and hollering, okay? You're walking right down a hallway, and all the dogs are feeding on each other. It's on the football team coming through the cheerleaders, okay? Everyone's getting excited. The band's playing, and these dogs will over-emote sometimes, okay? And as they're over-emoting, any part of your body is subject to getting hit, okay? And some dogs will do it intentionally, obviously, but many dogs just do it by accident. Okay, back in the old days, it was called re-attack. Nowadays, it's called redirect. So when you do go in there, kind of protect your body parts, okay? Primary body parts, your face and your fingers, okay? Try to really protect your hands, okay? The hands have a lot of stuff that can go wrong with a dog bite on your hand, an awful lot. Back in the old days, back in the military days, they actually didn't care if I got bit. It was my job. You get the cowboy up and move on, okay, clean it. But they demanded that if a dog was going to bite me, I gave him my arm, okay? Protect your hands. You do not want your hands bit, okay? So always be aware of that, okay? Especially during the hype. By going in, understand the hype, okay? It may affect you. So maybe wait a couple of seconds, maybe wait a little bit. Just see if maybe you can get the dog a little more calm. When you do, try to do it quick. Okay, if you are going to hook them up, try to get it done. Because what happens a lot of times is those extra 2 seconds, 3 seconds, it just gives that dog one more chance to get it, inflamed again. Okay, if you need to, loop leash them. Okay, just go in for the loop leash. Hi, honey, how you doing? Boom. Once you have his head, boom. Now you can do anything you need to do. Okay. Protect your hands at all costs. Watch your fingers once again going in the kennel. Okay, just be very careful with the fingers, okay? Because they will get you, okay? And it'll be an accident more often than not. Very few of these dogs are actually gonna, oh, there's fingers, I'm gonna take it off. But what they're gonna do is they're gonna be like, oh, jumpy, 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 grab. And now your fingers are being torn, so just be careful, okay? Okay, it's common, super duper duper common. If you're ever showing dogs off and everything, please make sure that the regular people, the civilians, okay, feel free to like, oh, hey, yeah, nice dog, and just bump them out of the way or something, okay? Because people will start playing coochie coo, and they will sometimes put themselves in danger. Okay, so just be careful of that. Just start screaming, loose dog, okay? So this way, the person coming out of the kennel with their dog on leash is like, okay, well, maybe I'll stay inside for a couple of minutes. So feel free that if the dog does get loose, announce it. Announce it just in case maybe there is a dog that's coming out of the kennel at that very moment on leash that really shouldn't be touching another dog. Okay, so feel free, it happens. Dogs get loose. Okay, dogs will bolt the kennel. Okay, so if it happens, hey, it's the way it is. Let's announce it. There's no shame in it, there's no embarrassment in it at all. When you do go in, try to get in as quick as possible. Because these dogs are quick. They live in 8-second increments. Okay? 8-second increments. Every second is 8 moments to them. And they can really ponder and think 8 times a second. And if they're thinking about getting out of that kennel, 2 seconds is 16 thoughts. Okay, so just be careful, right? How you doing, fella? 1, 2, 3, boom. And okay, first sign of anything going wrong, get out of there. Boom, gone. What happens there, a lot of us pet people, it's just what we do. We want to give an extra second, an extra 2 seconds. And we'll gently tug on that leash. We'll gently, maybe an extra second or 2 will solve the problem. If you think there's a problem, understand that second or 2, especially with sustained pressure on the collar, it is going to inflame the harder. Okay, so if you're over there and all of a sudden you see that, I don't know. There's an hook. There's an hook to the moment. You guys are going to feel the hook. I mean, just dealing with these dogs every Sunday within a month, you're going to be able to realize what's happening. And so if you're unsure, it's yay, gone. It's gone. It's almost like that cartoon. The guy's standing there, and the one to the left is his shoes. Okay, you want it that fast. You want it that quick if you can, because that extra 2 seconds, especially if they're straining, it is going to promote that prey drive. The prey drive is what causes the trouble. Prey drive is what also makes you giggle. The dog chases up a ball, he chews a bone. That's prey drive. The thing that gets you in trouble is a dog fight. Lunging, okay, biting you. That's the same prey drive. It's the same exact drive. Dealing with the dog that you really don't know, okay, or dealing with the dog that you do know that you should be leery of. Try not to put yourselves in vulnerable positions, okay? Try not to sit down with that dog. Try not to put yourself in vulnerabilities, okay? Because what happens there is if something does happen, Okay, this dog can jump. This dog can do whatever he wants as you're getting up. And there's no way you're getting up fast enough for a dog. It's just, you know, the dog really wants to do. We were ordered. This is as close to the ground as we can get, because we needed to spring up. But that's back when I was in my young 20s, and I could spring up. so kind of be careful. You know, they actually demanded that if I was dealing with my dog, this was as low to the ground as I can get. A loose dog. If there's a loose dog running around and your dog's on leash, the recommendation there is to not so much run, but beat feet. Get out of there. You're not going to help. All right? You're stuck. Try not to, if you can. Understand, this is hard. This is a lot harder than you can imagine. Try not to pull up on that dog. Try not to. Okay? Because what happens there is that dog now is in a moment of distress. The dog that's being pulled up, now understand, it's common. It's what humans do. It makes sense, but please try not to do it. As you pull up, you're putting that dog into defense posture. So now he has to be defensive. So he either flees or he fights. He can't flee. We have taken away his flee moment because there's nowhere to go. And at that moment, that dog who may not want to fight is going to fight. That loose dog now, who's just running around, he may not want to fight. But he comes up now, and now he has several seconds to figure this other dog out. And you're up there like this, and now your dog's being put into this distressed moment. That dog may bully your dog. That dog may bully the dog on leash. And that's where the dog fight happens. Unfortunately, my recommendation is, I'm walking my dog on leash. That dog's off. I'm not sure who he is. I've never seen him play with another dog. I just don't know. Just motor. Okay, just motor. Okay? More often than not, once it gets broken for a second or two, most often than not, they're like, thank you. Okay? It's a schoolyard fight. The kids are duking it out. All of a sudden, the teacher shows up. They're more than happy to quit. Okay? So the idea here is that if you can, something else. Something else. I've even told people in dog parks, take off your boot and throw it in the middle of it. Do not put your hand in the middle of a dog fight. Please, do not. It's inherently, horribly unsafe. But by rule and regulation, if I'm walking my dog on leash down a path and a dog gets loose and attacks my dog, by rule and regulation, what happens by walking, at least we're not putting our dog in that defense posture to either be bullied or to have to defend himself. So you actually lessen the chance of your dog doing something naughty by going away. The other dog who's like, I'm not so sure if I'm gonna bite this dog or not. I'm just kind of sort of happy I'm free. You know, and as I'm going after the dog, there's no setup. There's no, the dog that isn't sure if it's gonna bite or not, normally won't bite because there's no static setup. Because every 2 feet is a different environment. I take advantage of that in my training classes. There's a very, very naughty dog sitting with its owner, barking. I take it out. More often than not, it shuts up because of the change of environment. And the change of environment is usually effective. They get used to this environment, and now I'm in charge. So if the environment's changing every couple of feet, it's a brand new environment. Well, I think I'm going to bite this dog. Well, wait a minute. I'm thinking I'm going to bite this dog. And they actually keep on thinking it. And by that time, hopefully, you're kind of behind closed doors. So it is one of those moments that the dog's determined to bite your dog. He's biting no matter what we do. The number one thing I look at anytime I deal with a dog is its mouth. I don't look at its tail. I never look at the dog's tail. I never look at the dog's hackles. I don't look at his ears. Because depending on the dog, some dogs don't have ears. I don't even try to look for the hackles on a fluffy dog. You're never going to see the hackles. Okay, the ears, there's some of these floppy-eared dogs that really aren't going to show you the punch. The mouth. Every dog has a mouth. The mouth will tell you everything. Everything. If you look at the dog's mouth, and you kind of think like this as a broad brush, but tends to pan out pretty well. The looser the mouth, the looser the dog. The tighter the mouth, the tighter the dog. Tight dogs aren't automatically going to cause trouble, but a loose dog never causes trouble. Alright, so kind of think like that. So the looser the mouth, the looser the dog. So if you ever have a chance of having to go in on a brand new dog, and that mouth's a gate, holy moly. No, enjoy. Enjoy. The dog that's, looking at you, kind of like that, be careful. Okay, just, I'm not saying anything's going to happen, just be careful of it. Okay, kind of hook them up quick, get it done, kind of thinking, bark, 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 bark. Something like that. It's that kind of cadence. Okay, the dog who's afraid will tend to woo woo. Woo, 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 woo. It's more of a forward woo, woo, woo. They tend to cover their mouths. they tend to cover their mouth like that. So when you see a dog telling you, man, I'm not so sure what's going on here. Okay, help me out on this. Either stay away from me or help me. So that's usually a fear dog. And if that dog's going to get you, he's going to get you because he's a fear aggressive. The dog that's looking at you and going, bark, 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 the teeth are baring. Okay, the more guns you can see, I don't know, you guys do have the guillotine system, right? So, maybe the guillotine system comes in handy, shoo them out. The dog's hackles go up. It doesn't mean anything, in my opinion, doesn't mean anything other than the fact that that dog's unsure. You see a lot of puppies in puppy class play joyfully with the hackles straight up. That's an unsure dog. It's the puffing of the chest. Okay, the example there is the teenage boy at school puffs up his chest as the girl goes by. That's a bone. It's a good puff. Two guys puff their chest up at the mall, fighting over a parking spot. Same puff. Okay? It's what's going on around the puff. So when the dog puffs, try to see what's going on around it. If it's woo-wooing at you with the hackles up, it's nervous, it's afraid. If he's joyful with you, he's playing, the hackles are up, he's just unsure. This is what it feels like and smells like when you have happy people around you. Okay, you sat, oh my God, look what you just did. You sat, there's happiness coming out of you, there's pheromones coming off of you. The dog's going to absorb that. So the dog that's in a kennel, that really doesn't get a whole bunch of that in a given day because you can't. You can't, it's just impossible. At that moment though, the 15, 20 minutes that he's out of that kennel today, he might have just learned, wow man, it smells really great to go over and please a human. And that's bound to help him. It really is, it really is. There's a lot of bonding in simple obedience. There's a lot of bonding in tricks, tons of bonding. There's an insane amount of bonding in silly agility. And just making a dog jump over a box. Here, honey, you ready? Come on, jump over. Don't be surprised. If this was the box you wanted the dog to jump over, he'd walk around it because why should I trust you? If you can get that dog to trust you, like, oh my gosh, this dog who maybe doesn't trust a human, now all of a sudden I'm learning how to trust somebody. So any of that good stuff, why not? Oh, please. Find out what the dog likes. The dog likes treats, use treats. The dog likes a tennis ball, use a tennis ball. Anything. Obedience is almost give the person an excuse to be happy around the dog. Because when an unknown dog or a raw dog or a green dog does something that we want, hey honey, sit and sits, we are going to get happy. And just by getting happy, I'm a high school grad, I know nothing about the human body, but I've been taught to take advantage of the human body. And the human body, it throws off so much odor during certain emotion, well, any emotion actually, and happiness is one of them. There's a thinking that if you're sad, you actually make yourself smile, and that makes you happy. What happens there is it pinches the temples, and the temples activate the pheromone of happiness. It's the same pheromone that you get eating chocolate and hot peppers. The idea there is, hey, how you doing? Just by being happy, the dog's going to absorb that pheromone. And because dogs live in the realm of scent, there's an organ of Jacobson up inside their mouth that actually tastes odor. So when you're happy, you are literally giving this dog a tangible food object. You really are. When you're angry, you're giving the dog a tangible food object. When you're nervous, you're getting the dog a tangible food object. So try not to be overt. Try not to, impress upon the dog that, okay, feel my happiness. He's going to do it anyway. It's all about the body. So try not to force it. It's going to happen anyway. So even just sitting on a beautiful day like this, or standing, with the dog and just petting him. Okay, there's a lot of stuff coming off your body, and that dog's absorbing it. He's absorbing the daylights out of it. And so that's good time too. How can you go in on someone's house knowing that you might get bit? I said a complete lack of common sense. So that moment, that's one of the tricks that the old time dog handlers were taught. Go in there and hook that dog up, get it over with already. But the average human, you're not really going to be able to bluff per se. So what you do is, obviously take that deep breath. But the biggest thing that I tend to recommend is, when in doubt, get out. Okay, because the day doesn't depend on that dog coming out. At the end of the day, and the human has to survive the moment. And so, the idea there that if I'm not so sure about this particular dog, well then maybe I don't take him out today. But if you are to do something, it's I'm going in. I'm going in and okay, I'm going to set myself up, maybe loop leash, whatever. I'm going to set myself up and try to do it, because that hesitancy, the average, the normal hesitancy of a rational human being, Now all of a sudden, congratulations, man. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff happening with dogs at that moment. And they're processing every second 8 times. They're gonna get, they're gonna think about it. So a lot of times, if you have to do something, one of the bluffs is just do it. Just get it done. Just get it done. But even there though, the average human being is still gonna be a little weirded out. When in doubt, get out. And if you are determined to have to do something, just do it. Just get it over with. Because any hesitancy is it's going to smell. There's going to be a lot of flinching. A human flinch. I've been told by a doctor, a human flinch. When you flinch on a dog, when the dog comes at you and you flinch, understand it's normal. It's normal. But when you flinch, the amount of smell and taste that comes out of your body is amazing to a dog. It's brilliant.
Lock the gate with one knee.
Right.
With one hand, grab the collar and click on.
Yes,
Whereas
sir.
if I open the gate and try to get in, I'm like, oh, there's a dog going down in between my ankles way down there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's kind of where, but with me, I'm looking at when it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
When things are really running amok, what do I have a better chance of kind of succeeding on? And I think, just me. I open it up and I bum rush inside. And once again, make up my determination. I'm gonna do all or nothing. If the dog is so unsound that the only way I can get it is by loop leash, and of course, there's nothing wrong with loop leash as long as the dog's running up and down. But me personally, I just think it's better more often than not to get inside that kennel, shut it. So now I have wherewithal, I have access. I can determine if I'm going to leave it or not. Determine if I have to loop leash it. Get it, take a time, rest. It just allows me a lot more options. Locking and getting, yeah, why not? The dog's doing half the work anyway.
Yeah.
But if the person's going to be fumbling and everything, I think it's safer. Maybe even going doubles. I'll open it, you go in, I'll slam it. Kind of thinking. That's what it takes sometimes. Because as soon as the dog starts running up and down, we're going to have defense fighting. We have a problem. There's just recipe for mishap if it doesn't work well. That's so nice that anyone takes any dog for any reason outside of a kennel.
Yeah.
I mean, and it actually, I don't know. A dog who lives in a kennel for a year, 2 years, in my opinion, every day and every month that dog's in that kennel, he's becoming more and more like an army of one. Kind of thinking. He starts losing that pack mentality, the human bond and everything. He becomes his own soldier, and that's hard. That's harsh.
Yeah.
So anytime anyone can take any dog out for any reason, for even minutes, much less an hour.
Yeah, that's why I'm not waiting for him to calm down. He hasn't been out in 2
No,
weeks.
he can't calm down. He can't.
Yeah.
He's the kid screaming across the parking lot at Disneyland. He just can't calm down. So on that one, any interaction, human dog interaction for any amount of time. I mean, a dog staying in the kennel for too long, it kills me. You see some of these dogs who have been in the kennels for 18 months, and the people come over to class, and they go, look how cute it is, he chases his tail. I just cringe. I'm like, no, man, that was his only playmate. He only had his tail for so long.
It's not easy.
No, it's brutal. It's brutal. So God bless you all for doing this. But the idea is anything good. Walk in the woods. Jump over a log. Sit. Teach him to sit. Let him jump. Anything. A bath. Anything. Any human bonding. Most rescue dogs aren't abused. Most of them simply unused. It was just once upon a time a good idea that just turned into an amazing amount of work. So as far as that dog being angry, no, I don't see it. I see him being horribly confused.
Yeah.
I see him because my day-to-day activity, my day-to-day routine, and that's all dogs are, a routine. My day-to-day activity and routine is gone. And that was my safety net. And so I depended on every day my owner coming in and ignoring me and going to the refrigerator and sitting down and watching TV. I depended on it because that was my day-to-day activity. Now all of a sudden, I'm put somewhere else, my day-to-day activity is just completely destroyed. And that's where you get some edginess. And that's where the street dogs are more happy because they really didn't have a set pattern. That they were getting kicked from neighborhood to neighborhood. And they were wandering, and so it wasn't like every day I go to this man's garbage. Now all of a sudden I can't. It was like, whereas the average home pet, Every day I go to that water bowl that's in that corner. Now all of a sudden my water bowl's not in the corner anymore. You know, and that's what you see a lot of times. You see the discombobulation. You see a lot of times when two dogs are living together and one passes away, and people think the dog's depressed. He said, well, what's making you think he's depressed? Well, he sleeps all day. He doesn't want to play. He's not depressed. His routine is ruined. There's no one to play with. So I'm a dog. There's no one to play with. I'll lay down. I'll lay down. My routine is broken. So a lot of times the dog acting very good at home and all of a sudden one day acts badly. Yeah, it's about the routine. Did you lose your job? Is there an illness? Are you upset? Is there family discord? I actually get kind of personal with some people depending on what I hear from their dogs. Like, you know, hate to ask you this, but how old's that kid? You know, kind of thinking what's happening to ruin that dog's pattern. And that's probably what you're seeing there. Because a lot of times, if we get weird, the dog picks up on the weirdism. You know, like, oh, it's okay, buddy, it's okay. The dog's like, oh, leave me alone. Why are you acting like that? No one acts like this to me. And that's where it turns into its own pattern. You see a lot of rescue dogs don't want to go in a car because they don't know how, and they don't want to go upstairs. You see it a lot. And what happens there is these poor people spend months and months trying to convince the dog to go up the stairs. I had this one training years ago. Gorgeous, wonderful, fantastic, loving lady. Dog would not go up the stairs. Rescue dog would not go up the stairs. She wanted it in the family quarters. So she went over and, you know, come on, honey, let's go. Treats up there. She even changed the carpeting on the stairs, thinking that it was the plushness of the carpeting. She'd sit and have her dinner up there. The family would laugh at her. She read books instead of watching TV. I show up. I listen to her tell her woe. And I walk up the stairs. And I walk down the stairs. I walk up the stairs. I hand her the leash. I said, you try it. What happened was all that weirdism messed the dog up. It was like, come on, honey. What? Come on. And now all of a sudden the word come on meant I'm going to jam up. One of the ways you get a dog in a car, doesn't want to go in a car. You open up the hatchback, or you know, open the door, go 20 feet, 30 feet away. Let's go. Walk right in. Once you start saying, come on, you see the brakes come on. Because that's the cueing patterns. It's that weirdism. So that's where I tend to not try to be anything I'm not. You know, to try to convince a dog, because oftentimes it doesn't work. That at the old place, everything was done from the outside. Right. And so if that dog's kennel was the fourth kennel down, that dog only had to walk by 3 dogs. And so, and those 3 dogs only saw that one dog. Right. In here, you're walking down the main alley. It's like prison. They're all going down. It's exactly that. I've had the luxury of for certain trainings, being put down at state prison and county jail, and I'm telling you, you walk down there. Oh man, new bait. You know, it really is. And what's happening there is now that the dogs are a little panicked about it because it is different, but there's all that agitation. They're actually looking at each other now, agitating. You're seeing that, and anyone that comes down now is going to crank up that first dog. I want to get to that 4th dog. I'm going to crank up the first dog, which cranks up the 2nd dog, the 3rd dog, the 4th dog, the 18th dog, the 20th dog. Now they're all cranked, and they live in that crank. They actually live in it, and they expect to be cranked. Handling is dealing with the problem. Training is trying to get rid of it. That moment, the recommendation I have, depending on what he's doing, just where I get very weird, a dog chewing on its own leash is technically meaningless. It's not a form of dominance. It's not. Right. It's just me chewing my fingernails when I'm stuck in traffic. So at that moment, if it's not interfering with me, I just keep on going. Obviously, if he's jumping up and ripping my clothes, that's where the leash comes out. And maybe I'll hold him out as I'm walking, maybe to the pen, and I'll try to keep his mouth away from me. But that's a handling moment. I'm not really going to try to train him out of it, because the theory there is, you know, it is going to be for naught. You know, so it'll be a handling. You protect your body, hold him out if you need to. If he goes for your pants, he goes for your arm, you hold him out. But if he puts a leash in his mouth, as long as he's not, you know, hurting you with the tug of war, just kind of ignore it. I would.
We had people interested in her, but they have other pets for that. Does she need to be an only dog? You know?
I mean, is she aggressive with the other dogs?
Yeah, this is as far as we're
Okay, so you don't know.
She'll talk herself into
Well,
it.
no, she gets really mad at you through the.
And hear what Dad said, she'll talk herself into it.
Is that a tick?
You know, by barking.
That's a growth on her upper
What is
leg.
The space between the
Yeah.
Huh? I know, I saw that.
I don't know you.
Jim. Hi. All the other mornings except weekends. Yeah, Monday through Friday. A little while ago.
Yeah, that's what I thought when she saw it.
I said, you know, you can't see her.
She might get herself into it.
Here, 2 hours every day.
And they do it to everybody. Like, what do you
You sign up, I mean, they make
I worked for about 30 years, so I was used to it.
That bark isn't sound aggressive. It's more of like play. But if she runs in on this dog at full force, she might put a tooth on him.
Scare the people.
No, it's generally speaking, it's myself and
Hey, you see, even there, even I'm looking away, I'm not so sure that she's all that dog aggressive. She's just excited.
later on the day, apparently,
She knows she's being touched.
See your mouth is open?
She's probably pretty cool ultimately, but I mean, the first 20 minutes, she's going to be all or nothing. She's going to scare the living daylights out of that dog. If she was like a truly like older, stable alpha girl, let them touch. Let them touch. Why not? But
well, it's
the other dog has to be fairly stable.
in various areas.
What we try to like this morning we tried to
No, the thing I'm doing there is I'm just trying to control the head. So as she's going that way, I want to pick her up, just so I can kind of control the head. The head's gonna get
the
me.
same motion if there was like
A bear?
no, like a dog fight would say.
Oh no, Good potty. With the dog fight, you definitely don't want to do that. The dog fight, you're gonna rip them. You pull them up like that. As the other dog is loose, you'll fall and cause in trouble. But like right now, as like I don't know, like a mini eval. This is just a decent enough protocol. Because if she was truly dog aggressive, she'd be going off right now.
But see how he has the structure of her head can't swing around.
The head's going to cause the trouble. So I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that she's terribly aggressive. It just doesn't smack of it. Although dog coming in, the example I give with a dog like this, if I'm walking in the mall and I see a man grinning, hand out, and he's walking peacefully to me, I'm going to shake his hand. I don't know who he is. I'm going to err on the side of safety, and maybe he's a client. I'm going to shake his hand. Same man, same expression, same hand. He's running at me in the mall. There's a good chance I'm putting my hand out. Okay, I'm backing him up because why is he running toward me? You worry about this here. She's going to run in on this dog. She's going to hit him with the front part of her body, which is the mouth. So she's going to cause a trouble with that, or is that dog going to turn around and say, "Hey man, get out of my face"? So the idea here is I would tend, in broad brush right now, I'm going to say that I don't think she's terribly dog aggressive. I just don't see it. I don't hear it. I don't feel it. The excitement coming out of the kennel, yeah, no kidding. I've been barking all day at everything that moves. Yeah, the tongue's coming out. The tongue comes out, it means that she's more peaceful than you could imagine. I mean, she's tight. She ain't enjoying this. But she's looking away. Even barking, she looked the other way. You know, she looked the other way when she was barking. Full-out aggressive dog isn't going to look away. They're not gonna scan off their target. They're fully aggressive. Is she aggressive? No. But then how come you're not letting her touch? She's too excited. Too excited. You know, if you had a perfect day, she's outside for 3 hours, 20 minutes, you'll probably let her touch. But right now, though, I just be a little leery of it. Even there, that's an unfocused. That's a frustrated whine. That's a frustrated bark. So even that, the unfocused. Woof, 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 the unfocused. and then the calm down, I don't think she's terribly aggressive. If there's a family with a nice enough other dog, especially if it's a male, I'd probably try it out. Why not? But after she's,
They just really start for tension. They're out. They're
That-
having interaction with something, right?
anything. And the excitement, the prey drive got cranked up, the emotions got cranked up, the prey drive's going to get driven. Her prey drive is showing itself in the bark. But because she's going to go in a little more forcefully, that's the problem. That's the problem. It isn't the fact that she's a problem dog. It's the fact that because of just her life situation, just because of the way she is, she's going to run in on me with her hands out at 30 miles an hour. I am going to have to hook my fist out.
We tried doing that this morning with her, the dog. And same exact thing. Obviously, they keep them apart.
Yeah.
She was just so happy to be out, and so.
Yeah.
And most of these dogs are like that as well.
Yeah, yes, but that's where it just takes that 1 second for the 16 responses.
Exactly.
You know, this dog goes in, that dog responds, she responds, and there's 16 responses in 1 second. And ideally, the responses are a little more predictable. A calmer dog, you have a better chance of surviving the moment. And the dog that says, "Hey, how you doing?" The dog that's going in there, close talk is going at 100 miles an hour. You are prone to, at least opening the possibility for that 16.
And you're right. In a split second,
It goes
bad
from
things happen.
it goes from good to horrible, real quick with dogs. And at the end of the day, you can almost predict it. They're like, "Oh, crying out loud!" She ran in there like a banshee. Of course, something bad was going to happen. Sir.
I've noticed that some dogs are just very territorial when they're in their cage, and then when they're out, total different animal.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Manny?
Oh, yes, sir. The example I give there is the guy on Route 80, that pulls up next to you going 65 miles an hour and gives you the dirty finger. And then all of a sudden, you pull up next to him at the traffic light and he stares straight ahead when you roll down your window. It's exactly the same thing. Fence agitation is, I've learned that there's a stop. The fence is going to stop me. The leash is going to stop me. That's why you see a lot of leash agitations out there, a lot of leash aggressions out there. That I'm going to be stopped. You see a lot of dogs who are chained to the tree in the front yard. In spring, they finally break through the front door and they get the kid because they're expecting to be stopped. And that's what you're seeing there. So now that's why the dog that says, "Okay, I'm going to be stopped. I'm going to be stopped." You go in and you get him out of it. There's no stop. There's nothing to stop it. That's good luck. That's good luck. You got to buy a lottery. I'm actually mad it didn't happen to me. So I'm sorry. But that's probably what you're seeing there. You're seeing a lot of that front. One of the benefits I get going in on biting dogs into their homes, I just had it over in East Brunswick yesterday. The dog is so, or has convinced its people it's so dangerous that they have to muzzle it if there's anyone other than the family members in the house. It's a huge dog. And I go in there, I don't want to get bit. But there's possibilities of this stuff. The guy comes out with this dog on this big, huge metal leash, muzzled the whole bit, and the dog's coming at, and he's hitting the end of that leash, and he's over emoting. And I step in. First of all, I can because he has a muzzle on. I could be that brave, but I was going to step in no matter what because he was expecting that the stop meant that I can't get him, he can't get me. And what happened? I moved in, and he popped an anal gland. Because the game didn't work. And so you see that a lot of times. You see that in humans.
Yeah.
You see that a lot of times in humans. The guy on the highway is the perfect example.
Right.
You pull up next to him at the traffic light, he stares straight ahead. He don't see you. He just saw you though 5 minutes ago. Okay, so it's the same thing with the dog a lot of times that they hit that fence, and that fence emotes them. And it's called fence agitation. And there's certain fence aggressions out there. Agitation turns into aggression. And they know that you just can't get me. Just can't get me. Then one day what happens there is the fence is unlocked, the door is undone, the tether of the dog breaks, and they run up to their target, knowing they're going to be stopped. And all of a sudden, bam, congratulations, that's a bite. And meanwhile, though, it was a mistake. It was a complete mistake. But that's what you worry about here. She runs up there. She runs up there in this heightened moment, and actually by accident makes contact with her mouth. There's a mistake. There's a horrible mistake. Just straight out. Agility builds confidence. That's where it was originally invented. Agility stuff used to be called confidence course back in the military days, and then it turned into its own sport. But the idea there is you get the dog off its sense of proprioception, get the dog off its environment. It now automatically has to trust the human. It's a great bonding experience. If we're dealing with certain issues that we're trying to abate, this is where I I train in the negative realms. You know, I'm an omni trainer, and so if the dog's doing good, man, I'll bake him a cake. If he's doing naughty, I tend to do the old-fashioned Grecian collar pops. The idea there is if I'm trying to abate a problem, I probably bring them to basic obedience class. If I'm trying to build a problem, build an issue, you can go all positive building. You don't really need a class for that. You can do that yourself. Everyone knows how to make a dog sit, retreat. But if the dog's lacking confidence, you do want certain confidence builders. One of the biggest confidence builders out there is agility. It really is.
How do you teach them that? Do you I mean, you don't just take them to a course and expect them to figure it out.
No. There's a lot of goading. There's a lot of mistake training. A lot of times you put a hurdle 6 inches off the floor. The dog doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know it's only an inch long. He doesn't know there's a floor on the side. He doesn't know it's only 6 inches off the ground. Why are you making me do this? Who are you to make me do this kind of thinking? So what happens a lot of times is you take the bar and you put it on the floor. And by accident, he runs over it. You make a big deal of it. You can treat him. If he wants a tennis ball, you can have a tennis ball on the other side, a squeaky toy. Sometimes you just stand on 20 feet away from it and you walk him over it. And once he figures out that, I can leave the environment for a half a second because you say so, that's when you actually see them wanting to jump over that hurdle. Then it's the tunnel. You go shrink the tunnel up. Sometimes you have to crawl to the tunnel yourself. And then the seesaw. Sometimes takes months doing the seesaw. But what happens there is every piece of that equipment is based on the dog's sense of proprioception. It's a body. Fortunately, in the winter, the dog needs 4 times as much exercise as they do in summer. And in winter, they're getting 4 times less. And that's what you're getting. And so you're seeing puppies cracking. Okay, last month there was a swamp on private lessons for puppies. And most of my private lessons are like really, really naughty dogs. And I was going in on really naughty puppies. I was like, oh my God, this winter has really been atrocious. My naughtinesses tend to abate a lot in August because the dogs have been out all summer. There's a lot with sunshine and serotonin levels, melatonin levels in the dog's head. And just getting outside, it does it for us too. Is there any more questions? I appreciate this a lot. I really do. What a nice way to start a week. Thank you. Thank you. It's for you. That's the crank. That's what you just saw. You just saw the crank. She wasn't being aggressive. She was not being aggressive to that dog. She was part of the crank. Yeah, no kidding. Oh, no kidding, baby girl. Be a nice enough playmate to someone else. You really would. Licking is a form of submission. Okay, dominant dogs don't lick. So when a dog licks you, it is a form of submission. It's a nice sign. It means the dog's more acceptable to being controlled.
Example?
Excessive. That's an excessively submissive dog. Yeah. There's the
He's insecure.
dominant dogs. Well, I'm submissive, and so am I doing good? If a dog sits on your foot, at least as far as I'm concerned, it's a good sign. If a dog touches your foot with its paw, I think it's a great sign. Okay. If you ever want to see this in person, if you ever see a canine handler, go over and look at his gun and look at the boot opposite his gun. So if his gun's on his right side, look at his left boot. The filthier the boot, the better the handler. Okay, because that dog's always touching. Hey, Poppy, am I doing good? Hey, Poppy, am I doing good?